Sup? Welcome to the Tedeschi Trucks podcast. This is episode number 32, and I am Adam Choit. To follow this show, it's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram, and I am at Adam Choit on Instagram as well if you want to follow me. And I'm on Twitter too. That's another place where I post episodes of this show when they drop. My Twitter is also at Adam Choit. And of course, I have no affiliation with the band. This is not an official podcast for Tedeschi Trucks band or anything. I'm just a fan. And if you're listening, I'm guessing there's a good chance that you might be too. So please be sure to subscribe and give the show a positive review on iTunes. Doing those things is definitely helpful. So today's episode is going to be a solo episode. And I'm going to be talking all about Bob Dylan's influence on Susan and Derek and Tedeschi Trucks Band. And a little bit about my love for Bob Dylan and a little bit of Bob Dylan history. Like, where do you even begin? Because his career is insane in terms of the output and the longevity and how prolific he is. It's just and the amount of great songs he's written. We can't cover it all. I can't cover it all. This is just going to be like a little bit of a tribute to Bob, and I'll give some examples of how much Derek and Susan love Bob by playing some interviews and some Bob Dylan clips from Bob Dylan covers that Tedeschi Trucks Band covers and that Susan and Derek have recorded over the years and over the course of their careers. But again, it's like, where do you even start with Bob Dylan? But I've been a fan of his for pretty much over 2 decades now, even really before then. Like, you always know, everyone knows some or many Bob Dylan songs. Even if you don't even know that they're Bob Dylan songs, you'll probably find out later, oh, that was a Bob Dylan song? I didn't even know. But he's really been the soundtrack of our lives, and really, how many decades now of American history? Since more than 50 years. I'm going to read from his bio, part of it momentarily. But again, especially considering, and taking into consideration how often he's, covered by other artists too. That's, another just way his influence has been profound in all of music, even beyond his own music that he's recorded and performed. But some of these covers are some of the most iconic recordings ever. Just amazing to see what other people have done with Bob Dylan's songs, other artists, and of course Tedeschi Trucks Band doing that, contributing to that as well, which I will get into. But I do want to just say a little bit about, give some information about the guy, just share some of his quick stats and facts with you guys. Straight from the Wikipedia page. Bob Dylan, born Robert Allen Zimmerman, May 24th, 1941, is an American singer, songwriter, author, and visual artist. Widely regarded as one of the greatest songwriters of all time, Dylan has been a major figure in popular culture for more than 50 years. Much of his celebrated work dates from the 1960s, when songs such as Blowin' in the Wind, The Times Are A-Changin', became anthems for civil rights and anti-war movements. His lyrics during this period incorporated a range of political, social, philosophical, and literary influences, defied pop music conventions, and appealed to the burgeoning counterculture. That's just scratching the surface of what Bob Dylan is all about. Moving on to just the sort of top of the page summary on his discography here. American singer-songwriter Bob Dylan has released 39 studio albums, 94 singles, 26 notable extended plays, 50 music videos, 12 live albums, 15 volumes comprising the Bootleg series, 20 compilation albums, 15 box sets, 7 soundtracks as a main contributor, 5 music home videos, and 2 non-music home videos. I don't even know if that's up to date completely. I mean, that may not even be up to date for all I know, but that's just bananas. Dylan has been the subject of 6 documentaries, starred in 3 theatrical films, appeared in an additional 8 films and 10 home videos, and is the subject of the biographical tribute film I'm Not There. He has written and published lyrics, artwork, and memoirs in 11 books, and 3 of his songs have been made into children's books. He has done numerous collaborations, appearances, and tribute albums. The albums Planet Waves and Before the Flood were initially released on Asylum Records. Reissues of those 2 and all others were on Columbia Records. Dylan has won many awards for his songwriting and performances, including the 2016 Nobel Prize in Literature for his entire body of work. Yeah, I feel like I should just pull up, almost make a list of my favorite Dylan songs and favorite albums. I mean, I could do that. That's an option. But I just wanted to say that I've been lucky enough to have seen Bob Dylan 3 times live in my life, all quite a while ago, actually, but all awesome shows and great experiences for sure. And the first time I saw him was in Syracuse at the War Memorial when I was in college. I believe it was November 13th, 2001. According to the archive, that's when it was. And that was a cool show for sure. And that was the first time I ever saw Bob. And then I saw him years later at the Hollywood Palladium in October of 2009. I saw that show with my sister, actually, I remember. That was cool to see him in sort of an open general admission type environment where it's all kind of standing on the floor. So I kind of remember we got a pretty good view of Bob at that show, and then I saw him again about a year later from after that show with a friend in New York City at Terminal 5. That was fun too, and again, that's a bucket list thing for sure, but more than just a bucket list thing. I remember Bob doing his thing, and of course he plays with top-notch musicians. So to see him and his bands over the years a few times was cool, was awesome, and I appreciate that. Again, just this guy's career has just been so prolific. That's a word I'm going to keep coming back to. And as you know, you'll hear momentarily, I'm not the only one who recognizes this. Just the amount of content and material and music and poetry and lyrics that this guy's put out is just incredible. And I really like the later stuff too, stuff from the 90s, stuff from the 2000s. The guy just keeps on going like a rolling stone. I'm not even really trying to be poetic myself in describing this. I'm like just looking at some notes right here, just with some of my favorite songs. One of my favorite Bob Dylan songs, probably my favorite Bob Dylan song, is Mississippi, off Love and Theft. I think that TTB should do that one. That would be cool, and they could definitely trade some verses and little bridge parts or whatever with all their great vocalists. But even recently, Bob Dylan put out that song about the JFK assassination, which is a history lesson and a tribute to culture and artists and all the lore and intrigue that goes into, or that has gone into, the circumstances surrounding JFK's assassination. It's a really cool song, though. Murder Most Foul. I should mention that it's 17 minutes long, and it's Dylan's longest song ever recorded, previously unreleased, and he just dropped that in the middle of the night. I want to say in April or something like that, attached with a short message. But that's definitely check that out. Murder Most Foul, the Bob Dylan song. But let's see what we got here. So I came across this interview that Derek and Susan did with this organization and place, soon to be place, called the Bob Dylan Center, which is an archive all about Bob Dylan and his work and life. That's based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But there was this 14-minute video that was released on YouTube featuring Derek and Susan, where all they're doing is talking about Bob Dylan and his influence on them and their lives and their music. And it's just a gem of a piece of material. And I reached out to Bob Dylan Center, bobdylancenter.com. Definitely check them out. I'm going to plug them a bunch more times for sure. But they were kind enough to give me permission to use their interview in this podcast. So what I'm going to do is play some clips from it, the interview, and then respond to them and play some more clips and respond and kind of go from there. And then I got some music clips lined up after that. So we'll just dig deeper and more into Susan, Derek, and Bob Dylan. So straight from the Bob Dylan Center website, I do want to talk about them and what they're doing a little bit, because it is exciting, and they're working on it now. As far as I understand, it's going to be opening in 2021. So go to their website, bobdylancenter.com, for updates. But straight from them, it's a place to study and appreciate the life and work of Bob Dylan. The Bob Dylan Center is committed to exploring the myriad of forms of creativity that enrich the world around us. When it opens in the Tulsa Arts District in 2021, the center will serve to educate, motivate, and inspire visitors to engage their own capacity as creators. Through exhibits, public programs, performances, lectures, and publications, the center aims to foster a conversation about the role of creativity in our lives. As the primary public venue for the Bob Dylan Archive collection, the center will curate and exhibit a priceless collection of more than 100,000 items spanning Dylan's career, including handwritten manuscripts, notebooks, correspondence, films, videos, photographs, and artwork, memorabilia, and ephemera, personal documents and effects, unreleased studio and concert recordings, musical instruments, and many other elements. Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. It's like, it's like the Baseball Hall of Fame for Bob Dylan, basically, which that's why I'm wrapping my head around this. But I love that, museums and history, especially, when it houses a subject that I'm very interested in and into, which is Bob Dylan and his music. But this center, they did have an interview with Susan and Derek. And this is what it says on their YouTube channel. Shortly after the Bob Dylan Archive began arriving in Tulsa, we caught up with Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks, along with Tedeschi Trucks band Wheels of Soul Tour. Having shared a stage with Dylan, Susan and Derek offer a unique personal insight into his role as a songwriter and band leader. And this was filmed in the summer of 2016 at the Brady Theater in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The interviewer is Michael Chaikin. The camera is Shane Brown. The editing is Jared Alterman. And you can find this video just by searching Bob Dylan Center on YouTube. Bob Dylan Center, Susan Derek, Bob Dylan, Susan Derek. You can find it, and I'll throw a link as well into the description. But I sort of edited the video into some separate parts, basically in chronological order, how it was in YouTube. So this first one is talking, Susan and Derek are just talking about their early lives and family life with their dads, just both of their dads being big Bob Dylan fans. So here you go.
Both of our dads were I think their lives were changed by Bob Dylan. Like, it really changed the course of the way they thought about things, and they were from different places, but massive fans. I mean, her dad was at Newport when he went electric.
Yeah. My parents used to go and get babysitters for us when we were little so they could go to Bob Dylan shows. Yeah. But they've been going to see Bob since he really started touring around New England.
So, you know, he was a hero of our parents growing up. So his music was always around, and it was always important, you know. Like with my dad, there was only a few things that held up to that level. He was, you know, I grew up, Duane Allman and some of that early stuff was in that light, and Dylan. And for my mom, it was Joni Mitchell, and it was like B.B. King and Ray Charles, and that's almost everything else was secondary. But that crew was always held up in that light. So that's the way I first heard it.
My dad, you know, always played. He had harmonica, so he had like the little harmonica brace like Bob, and always played guitar. So he played acoustic guitar growing up, and he always would be playing his songs, everything from World War III blues to, you know, My Back Pages. And my mom and dad would both sing all the lyrics, all the verses. They knew everything. So we would grow up, you know, having sing-alongs in our house, and my dad would mix it up. He liked a lot of the country blues artists and a lot of the folk artists. So, you know, for us it would be, you know, Dave Van Ronk and people like Phil Oakes, you know, is someone that my mom would like. And then, you know, and it was really cool. I really learned a lot about the folk scene. My dad used to go see them at Club 47. He would go see Bob when he was really young. And so he got to see the whole progression of him. And he loved him through every state, you know, every stage of Bob. And it was cute. He was like, well, I booed him at Newport, but I really loved him. I only booed him because he was, you know, our hero. And, you know, and it was really cute. Like, he had this whole idea of why he had to boo him. But he really loves him to this day. You know, to this day, he loves his songs, and he's always encouraging us to incorporate more Bob songs. And so is his dad. You know, his dad's a huge fan too. So it's really cool that we both have dads that, you know, really turned us on to Bob early. So I think it was a huge impact as songwriters and as listeners and music lovers.
That's cool. I'm impressed that Susan and her parents and her family sang all the verses of Bob Dylan's songs, because some of his songs have quite a few verses and lots of lyrics. But once you commit, you commit. I guess it's kind of a badge of honor. If whether you're playing guitar and singing alone or with others, you always want to finish the whole song and be true to it and sing all the lyrics, no matter how many verses there are. But I'm always interested in hearing the specifics about Derek or Susan's musical roots and what their families were listening to, and when they were young kids. That's always interesting to dive into that stuff. Let's hear this next clip. This is Derek talking a little bit about Bob Dylan's longevity and Bob as an artist. So let's hear that.
We've been out on the road with Los Lobos, and I know David Hidalgo was a part of the last handful of records. And the tune Duquesne Whistle, just that, I love that as much as anything he's ever done. So he continues to do it. I mean, he's one of the rare exceptions to the rule of, like, you have one or two good records and then you're done. It's usually the case, but some guys just keep rolling, and you know, he's always trusted himself more than anyone else, I think, and that's what it takes. I don't think he's listening to a lot of outside opinions of what he should be doing. So if he wants to do an album of standards and be a singer of somebody else's music, then he's like, well, that's what we're going to do. And so I respect the single-mindedness of the way he goes about it. And I think, especially in this day and age of just constant pandering and BSing everyone, he's remained outside of that. So it kind of makes him bulletproof in my eyes. He does what he wants, and when you do that, you're kind of always right as an artist. You know, you keep reinventing yourself and keep rolling down the road.
Yeah, I agree. The dude has had longevity. He's an artist. He's unapologetic about what he wants to do with his music, and that's cool. let's hear this next clip.
I think once he got going, he was a magnet. People wanted to be a part of his things, and he was always great about picking the right people that had the right spirit. And you can just tell from listening to those early sessions, and then the stuff he did with the band. There's a real freedom and looseness to the way they went about it, and it reminds me of like when I hear about the kind of blues sessions where Miles, he didn't want to put the music in front of the band until they were recording because he wanted to get that first instinct and first take. And I feel like a lot of Dylan's recordings are that way too, where he puts world-class musicians in a room, but he only wants to do it a few times. He doesn't want to beat it to death. He doesn't want to take the life out of it. And you feel that spirit in a lot of those recordings where you can tell everybody is kind of on their toes and loose, and it feels like a jam session, but it just happens to be the best musicians that you could possibly get. But there's that spirit, and you never hear a record of his that feels tired or lazy or like just too studioed out, and I always appreciate that. So he lets the music breathe, and I think a lot of that's the folk background. I mean, he was in and around all those guys, Booker White, Son House, John Hurt. He was running in those circles and seeing just kind of the way they went about it and the way that music felt. And I feel like he's kept that folk tradition throughout whatever he's done. So there's an honesty to it that I think that hits a lot of people too. Sometimes before they get to the lyrics and the words, it's just the spirit of it and the feel of it.
Dude, Derek is just such a student. I mean, among many other things, as an artist, but you can just tell that he's just such a student of music and music history, and has such a great respect of everyone who's come before him, and sees the hard work and prolific catalog that Dylan has created, and the musicianship that's gone into the music that Dylan has put out. And it's cool to hear those insights about not wanting the music to be overproduced, and the advantages of having a sort of looseness to it, and letting all the musicians and the talent in the room do its thing and let the music breathe as Derek mentioned. But this next clip is going to be Susan, and again, like Derek, like these two, this couple here, they're just not just great musicians, so articulate about music and how they talk about it. So this is just a great clip from Susan. I think you guys are gonna enjoy this.
I've always been enamored by the way he plays guitar and harmonica, even just by himself, and then hearing him in different situations with different producers is always fascinating, because somehow he, like Derek said earlier, he's always recreating himself, and he's not afraid to take on different personas, which I think is great. Like, of course, like his voice on Lay Lady Lay is so different than something from Time Out of Mind, and it's just really cool to hear him be able to be, have that freedom to be a pure artist in a lot of ways, and not just a songwriter and not just a guitar player or a singer, but the whole picture. Like, he really encompasses what you hope to be as a musician. You have a lot of opportunities to play with people like you were saying, the band, or someone like Al Cooper, Mike Bloomfield, and so many different artists that really were iconic in their different time periods. But they all were also honored to play with Bob. Like, if you ask any of those guys, they're going to say, like, even if it's someone who's amazing, like, of course, they're all going to say that was probably a highlight for them, because he's a really interesting and pure musician.
What I do is I sort of play these clips, edit them, sort of jot down some notes and some reactions to them, but I play them again before I ultimately record my reactions to the clips. And just looking at what I have here in response to that Susan clip, I wrote down musicianship, recreating himself, playing well with others, different personas, different voices, and true artist. And I think really Susan just covered a lot about what we all admire about Bob Dylan, which is more than one thing. He's not really known for one thing, so to speak. He's just multifaceted, multi-layered, and impressive. Let's play this next clip. Next clip here, which is talking about with Susan and Derek talking about a little bit about Dylan on the road and more.
He's a lifer too. I mean, there's some guys that some songwriters, it seems like they like avoiding being on the road, and they'll just write tunes, and every once in a while a record will come out. But he's like B.B. King or Willie Nelson, or he's just always going. That's our speed. I mean, we've been on the road since we were kids, and you kind of feel that you're always going to be on the road. And when you see someone like Dylan, you're like, cool, yeah. We can do it. Like, he's still rolling, and he's still enjoying it, and he still means it. And he's in that small group of those guys. I mean,
and I love the guys he plays with nowadays, Yeah. Love Tony Granier. He's a beautiful bass player, and I know he's played with Larry and with Charlie, Charlie Sexton and those guys. And I don't even know who he plays with all the time, because I don't know if he mixes it up or not. I don't get to see him on tour, but he always has really classy, really down-to-earth guys that are playing with him, and that can do anything, and that can hear wherever he's going. Because you need to have people be able to follow him, because he's so spontaneous, which I love too. You might know his songs inside and out, and then you hear him do a song, you're like, what is that? And you're like, wait, that's Girl from the North Country? You wouldn't even recognize it, because it's such a different arrangement now. So I like how he likes to reinvent his own things as well, which is really unique. I don't think everybody always does that.
Yeah, he'll take a turn. He's not afraid of that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is quite something to hear, how some of these Bob Dylan classic songs have evolved over decades, and how he performs them a little bit differently and puts different wrinkles in some songs when he plays them live. And he plays I don't know if he's still playing keyboard these days or piano, but I know he does some of that live, and to sort of put a different spin on some of the old songs as well, I believe. But let's play this next one.
The first time I saw him perform and then ended up sitting in with him, I think I was 11 or 12, and we played 2 shows in Florida at these theaters, Clearwater and St. Petersburg. And like I was saying earlier, my dad is, Dylan is, there could be no one better for his son to be on a bill with. And the first night we played and we watched the show, I remember the second show we got done playing, and there was something going on between the promoter and my dad, and they got into it, and he's like, come on, we're out of here. Like, I don't care if Dylan asks himself to sit in, we're rolling. And as we're leaving the building, Dylan comes in, and he's with his manager, and his manager leans down, and he's like, Mr. Dylan requests your presence on stage. And so I just look up at my dad. He's like, of course. Yeah, I was just kidding. Of course you can stay. So I ended up jumping up mid-set, and I think Highway 61 was maybe the first tune I played. And then once it started rolling, it was just like, you're not leaving. It ended up just one tune to the next. And, I was too young to be too nervous about it, because I knew who Bob Dylan was. But I think if I'd have been 20 or 25, it would have been like, oh shit, I'm playing with Bob Dylan.
I can't imagine what that promoter was trying to pull with Papa Trucks. But if Bob Dylan is Derek's dad's hero, one of his favorites, it must have been quite something that that guy was trying to pull to want to get Derek out of there. But that's quite a story. And of course, Derek's 11 years old playing with Bob Dylan, and he's got a million stories about playing with legends when he was a kid. But let's get into this next clip, which is Derek talking about reconnecting with Bob about 10 or so years later. This is interesting how this went.
And then I saw him maybe 11 years later when I did this tour with Phil Lesh. And it was Dylan and Phil Lesh's band. And I flew in the middle because their guitar player had split, something had gone down. And I showed up, and when I saw him before, I was 11, and I was 22 or 23, so I figured I'm not even going to try to say hello. There's no way he'd remember that. It was a long time ago. And I ran into him in the hallway, and he's like, I think it's probably been 10, 12 years since I saw you. Like, he totally, like, he has this appearance that he's not paying attention to what's going on, but like down to the day, I think it was in Florida. I was like, yeah, it was actually. Like, he has an incredible memory for that stuff.
I think that not only Bob Dylan has a good memory, but Derek also has a good memory, because that's a while ago at this point for Derek too to be recalling the story of Bob Dylan recalling meeting Derek initially, if you guys can follow all that. But Derek's, I feel like, a pretty damn good storyteller as well, just hearing him speak on different interviews and in different clips and on various other podcasts. And that's just another thing that the guy is good at. But let's hear about Susan meeting Bob Dylan and playing with Bob Dylan.
When did you play with him?
So I'm trying to remember, it's either 98 or 99.
I knew you. I mean, we were...
Okay, if you knew me, then it was 99.
Yeah.
It was like September of 99. I got to open with my band, and I think it was Chris and Tommy, so it was Double Trouble, was my rhythm section. And I got to open up, and I was just like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to get to meet him. You know, I was like all nervous and excited. And so after my set, they're like, oh, excuse me, you know, Mr. Dylan wants to talk to you. I'm like, really? I was like, okay. So got to go meet him. And I remember the very first thing he said, he was like, how do you get that tone? I was like, what? And he's like, on your guitar. And I was like, really? He's like, I love your guitar playing. I was like, wow, like I've never in a million years would have thought that, you know, because I've always kind of, you know, the singer or something. So it was really, it blew my mind. And he asked me to get up and play with him. So I thought he was going to get me up to sing. No, he wanted me to play guitar. So I was like, oh, Lord. I was like, Tony, I need you. I went over to Tony Granier. I'm like, just yell out some changes. Like, I know these songs growing up, but I know them all, you know, vocally, lyrically, not necessarily all the chords perfectly. And
Tony was great about that, because
yeah,
I think when I was 11, he was in the band and he was yelling changes at me
or whatever,
too.
Yeah.
He's like,
so
here's the
help me
lifeline.
out. I was like, thank you, I love you so much. And so it really worked out good, because he didn't just get me up there for one song. I was up there for about 6 or 7 songs. So I was like, thank God for this band, because they were amazing. And he was just fantastic. He had so much energy. And then actually somebody had a bootleg video later that they gave me of the two of us, and I'm just sitting there smiling away. He's smiling, he's kicking his feet, and we're swapping solos. It was a dream. It didn't even seem real, honestly. I think back and I'm like, wow, what a beautiful moment. And I'm just so thankful to have those kind of memories, you know, just to be there and get to hear him. And I couldn't get over how different some of the songs had changed, you know, and how cool they were, you know, or how he just really is the master of reinventing, you know, beautiful, great songs. And that's the one thing too. I mean, when you have a great song, it holds up no matter who's going to do it or what kind of an arrangement. A great song is a great song. And so he is the master of that. He's definitely always been my favorite songwriter. So.
And with that is the end of the clips that I have from that interview. Again, thank you to Bob Dylan Center for providing or letting me use, give me permission to use that audio from that interview with Derek and Susan. And yeah, you all should definitely check out, if you haven't already, what Susan is describing there, which is her on stage with Bob Dylan. And it is on YouTube. Card Plant, CARDPLANT is the channel, the name of the channel, the username on that channel. And according to the information in the description there, it's from Newark, Delaware, November 20th, 1999. And they do Highway 61, and it takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry. And you could see Susan having fun, Bob Dylan having fun in the video, jamming out, rocking out. I think you can actually kind of see Susan, you know, what is the chord, trying to follow along there. But speaking of, I'm going to play a little clip from Highway 61, Susan and Bob Dylan jamming. So here you go. awesome. And I think you can pretty much hear how much fun everyone on stage is having during this performance. This next clip is Tedeschi Trucks covering the Bob Dylan song "Lord Protect My Child," recorded by taper Bill Goldberg, 8/23/2018 at the New York State Fair. Of course, Susan recorded this originally during her solo career. But here you go. Let's slow it down a little bit with "Lord Protect My Child."
For his age he is wide. He's got a smile in his eyes. There's gladness in his heart. He's young and he is wild. Now my only prayer is if I can't be there, then Lord, protect my child.
And I don't know this for a fact, but I would guess that the album Susan recorded that song on, "Lord Protect My Child," was called "Hope and Desire," which are lyrics from that song, "Lord Protect My Child." So I'm guessing that was the inspiration for the title of the album. But let me see what we got next here. We got TTB at the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium from March 2nd, 2019. Asheville, Georgia is the name of the taper. This was in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's TTB doing Going, Going On, the Bob Dylan song. Of course, these are all Bob Dylan songs, Bob Dylan covers. And we'll hear a little of the chorus, and Derek just ripped an awesome solo. So here you go. Wow, I don't even really know how to respond to that. I come back to that show and that song quite often. That just and that's just such an awesome solo too. Just yeah, Derek, he makes it sing as we've talked about on this podcast, maybe just a few times. But let's get into this next clip, which is TTB backstage at Red Rocks Amphitheater in 2017. It was that this is a clip from that backstage video they did with John Bell of Widespread Panic on lead vocals doing Bob Dylan's Down Along the Cove. Yeah, people are just kind of like banging on boxes and kind of an acoustic unplugged version of this song, but it's cool. So you definitely want to check that out on YouTube. That's on TTB's Tedeschi Trucks Band's YouTube channel. But here's backstage Down Along the Cove.
Down along the cove, I stopped my little for a joint. She said, "Oh, Lord have mercy, I'm so glad you are my boy."
That was awesome, and you can really tell how much fun everyone is having in the in the video backstage there, for sure. But I gave you two Derek solos there, two Derek parts. So let's give you a Susan performance here, covering the iconic Bob Dylan song "Don't Think Twice." Don't think twice, it's all right. You know, what is the name of the song? The name of the song is Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. I guess I'm so used to seeing posted set lists of TTB just saying Don't Think Twice or whatever, because they abbreviate a lot of songs on their set list. Understandable, of course, why. But let's hear Susan doing her thing here.
There ain't no use seeing him all around if you don't know by now. Ain't no use seeing him all around. It'll never do somehow. Oh, when your rooster crows out the break of dawn, look out your window, no, I'll be gone. And you're the reason I'm traveling on. But don't think twice, it's alright.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There's really no other way to describe it. Well, there's many ways to describe it, but that's one word that does it. And that was from 10/10/2018 at the Beacon Theater in New York City. Z-Man, ATL, Z-M-A-N, ATL was the taper for that recording. And yeah, I mean, that's just, I just love what Susan does with that song. Again, beautiful. This next clip is Mike Madison singing Down in the Flood. And I already played this clip in a previous podcast episode, but here's a different part from that particular track. Ed Gendelman, it was from, is the taper, and it's from 2/29/2020, which I think is TTB's last show. I keep saying that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So here's another section of Down in the Flood, the Bob Dylan song covered by Tedeschi Trucks Band, and of course was also covered by the Derek Trucks Band and recorded by them. They're all storytellers who really take one on a journey. Derek, Susan, Bob Dylan, be it with their guitars, their voices, the band members that they're with. It's a journey going through these songs and listening to one song from the beginning to the end. There's a narrative to the music itself, and I have one more clip here, the final clip You Ain't Going Nowhere, another clip that I used in the previous podcast. The taper is Potamus, Patamus, cover, and they're, it's TTB covering You Ain't Going Nowhere. And yeah, you'll hear a little bit more Derek ripping on the guitar here and more. But that's from the show I was at, one of the shows I was at, 9/17/16, at the LA Orpheum Theater downtown. So here you go, You Ain't Going Nowhere. I remember it. I was there. That was the last song they played of the first set before intermission. And they rocked out in the second portion of the evening, as well, as you might imagine. But I think that's pretty much all I got for my Bob Dylan episode here. My TTB Bob Dylan episode. Thank you to all the tapers, to the Bob Dylan Center. I'm going to try to have those guys on, or someone from there, as they get closer to their opening. Maybe we could dive deep on some of the specific songs that TTB has covered that I just played clips for. Dive deeper into the meaning and the history and the lore behind them. There's just so much directions and ways to go, and content and music to discuss when it comes to Bob Dylan and Tedeschi Trucks Band as well. But I would like to talk to Bob Dylan himself. That would be cool to have Bob on to talk about, what he thinks about Derek and what he thinks about Susan, Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi. I mean, that might be a challenge to get Bob on. He doesn't really do many interviews, let alone podcasts like mine that have quite a bit of room to grow. But that would be a bucket list life goal thing for sure. Because we wouldn't talk about. I've thought about this too much, but I wouldn't want to do a whole fucking retrospective about the guy's career, but I think he might enjoy talking about Derek and Susan and other artists, and I'm curious if he's heard all the music from Tedeschi Trucks Band and how aware he is of the 4 studio albums and all the touring that they've done over the last few, over the last decade, basically. But that aside, I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Again, thank you to Tapers, Bob Dylan Center. Definitely check that out, bobdylancenter.com. Follow them. Literally follow what they're doing over there. And for more about this podcast, Tedeschi Trucks Podcast on Instagram. That's at Tedeschi Trucks Podcast. And of course, remember to tap subscribe or follow on iTunes, Spotify, or via whichever way you listen to this show. Again, positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated. I have that spiel down pretty well, I think, at this point. But thank you, TTB, Bob Dylan, for the music. And for you guys, thank you to you guys for listening too. Let's talk soon. Peace.